All right, well.
And we will be recording this session. So just kind of know that, maybe wait to pick your nose until after the session is over. Just kidding, just seeing if you guys are paying attention. I know it's 5:30. Yeah, well, thank you all for joining us. We're gonna wait just a minute or two to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to log on. We know that it's right after work. And unfortunately, we weren't able to get together for drinks, but if you want to crack one open, you are more than welcome to. Or pour yourself a glass of wine, or get a wonderful sparkling beverage. Water we're big fans of H2O, Louisville tap water at the Leadership Louisville Center. So if drinking is not your thing, but certainly appreciate you all being here and being flexible, because we weren't able to have the happy hour in person, but hopefully you all still get a lot from the session. And we've got some awesome grads joining us this evening who are already on the call. And you all will definitely be in for a treat to meet them. Joe, what are you drinking this evening?
I have just poured a glass of wine.
Ooh.
So I'm going to enjoy a glass of wine during our happy hour. Our bring your own beverage happy hour.
So if you need to go off camera, come back with a drink, that's totally fine too. What is your drink of choice, Joe, when you drink some red wine?
I like bold red wines. I like a Malbec. Like anything from the south of France. Yeah. I prefer red over white in general too.
I don't know that I've ever heard a wine, the wine connoisseur that I am, described as bold, but that's good to know. I'm sure that is a normal wine thing. I'm just cultured, but I am drinking a West 6th actually in honor of where the happy hour was going to be. Just kidding. I didn't actually intentionally do that, but here we are. Okay. Well, it looks like we've got a healthy amount of folks on the call. Thank you guys again for joining us. Do we want to go ahead and get started and kick off our exciting hour-long presentation?
Absolutely. Thanks, Amy, and welcome again, everyone. Also want to kind of double down on what Amy said. We're really sorry we couldn't meet all you in person as we had intended. But obviously we want to do what is safest for everyone. And so we will go ahead and give you all the information this way, and hopefully we can meet you for a drink at a future time, maybe even during the class if you join. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do this evening. So we're going to meet the staff that are involved. We'll also get an introduction to the Leadership Louisville Center, so that if this is your first introduction to the center and what we do, first of all, welcome, and you'll get to know a little bit more about us. And then the program overview. So Ignite itself, what is it? What can you expect? And I'll walk you through that. Then you'll hear from some grads of the program. So you get to hear firsthand their own personal experiences. So you don't have to take our word for it. And then Amy will also walk you through how to apply, what that process looks like, and give you some tips. And we should have time at the end for some Q&A. And you can also go ahead at any time and throw any questions you have in the chat, and we will either get to those as we go, or we'll answer them all at the end. So introductions, I'm Joe Lloyd Triplett. I'm Leadership Development Manager at the Leadership Louisville Center. And what that means is I run the Ignite program and the Bingham Fellows program, and I also am involved on the Leadership Green Room side, which is our workshops, 1- and 2-day trainings. So I would be your host and guide through the Ignite program if you decide to apply. And we also have on the call with us, who you probably met when you registered, Amy Jewell, and I'll pass over for her to introduce herself.
Hello, yes. So you have seen me in your inbox if you are here with us this evening. My name is Amy Jewell. I've been with the center a little bit over 3 years as the engagement manager. So all things helping people get involved with the center. I am a graduate of Focus and Ignite. And so went through a few programs and wouldn't stop knocking on the door until they hired me. So loved my experience so much with Joe and the team. I am not kidding about that, that I came on to help people get involved. So I love the work that we do at the Leadership Louisville Center. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. And as Joe said, this is going to be a pretty casual presentation. So definitely, as you have questions that pop up, whether they're about the center or Ignite, or Joe's favorite red wine, just let us know, and we'll be here to answer them. Because this was the happy hour that was supposed to be kind of casual. So we're going to kind of try to keep it casual and fun as we go along. So we are the Leadership Louisville Center. That is our wonderful building down on Main Street. So if you know where the big David statue is, right in front of 21C, we are right across the street at that 7th and Main. Moved into the building a couple of years ago. If you all have been there, hopefully you've been to visit us. If you haven't, we welcome you to stop by at any point, but maybe not on weekends. We're not open on weekends, but in general, we have been open for a little bit over 43 years now. And so we were originally founded by a group of Louisvillians who were really excited to get people involved in civic engagement. And what that means is we have a lot of different ways to get involved. So we were originally founded with the Leadership Louisville program. So sometimes it's kind of confusing because we are the Leadership Louisville Center. Our flagship program is actually called Leadership Louisville. And that is our most competitive program. It is a 10-month experience into kind of a deep dive into all things Louisville. We then figured out that we probably needed a way for people to engage in a little bite-sized section. And so that's when we founded Focus Louisville. So Focus Louisville is our 2.5-day experience into all things Louisville. So you get to meet major decision makers in Louisville. You get to connect with some people who you might not normally connect with on a day-to-day basis. And then you also get to see a little bit more of the city than you probably have thus far. So when I went through in 2016, I have never moved away. I've always been a Louisvillian and still learned so many new things. And so that's probably one of my favorite things about the Leadership Louisville Center is we are constantly trying to take you out of your comfort zone in a healthy way. No like diving out of airplanes or anything like that, but take you out of your comfort zone, introduce you to some new people, introduce you to some new places. And that is where Bingham Fellows came in. So Bingham Fellows was really, it is like Joe said, she is the wonderful person who orchestrates each year. That is our topic-based program. And so the topic changes every year, depending on what the city is looking to really solve for that year. And that's really a wonderful think tank of leaders who are ready to roll up their sleeves and do some really great community impact. Ignite is pretty similar to Bingham Fellows in the fact that there is a project-based component to it. So we're here to tell you a little bit more about Ignite. But Ignite is an amazing way to meet other emerging professionals, get kind of your hands dirty and really thinking about how do you want to show up and lead with and through other people. And so it's a wonderful experience, and hopefully we'll tell you a little bit more about that in just a few minutes. But Encore is our retiree program for baby boomers who are looking to step out of the workforce. So not quite there yet, but once you all have graduated from Ignite and all of our other programs, just know that Encore is there for you too. So we never have an off day at the center. We're always pretty busy with these 5 different civic programs. And then we've got our leadership green room, which is our 1 and 2 day long professional development workshops. So as Joe said, she is front of room for some of those trainings. They are really fun, dynamic trainings. We bring in Google, Ken Blanchard companies, lots of really astounding leaders and thought leaders within the leadership space. But super excited to have you all here. That's a little bit, I feel like I just word vomited. So a lot of it about the Leadership Louisville Center. But without further ado, we can get into the nuts and bolts of Ignite Louisville. Joe.
All right, Thank you, Amy. So let's go ahead and cover all of the general overview logistics before I dive into the program itself. So in general, most applicants are in their mid-20s to 40s, usually 1 or 2 promotions into your career at this point. There is also a nonprofit leadership opportunity as part of the program, and I will get into what that is. Ignite is 6 months long, and you come and spend a full day with us 1 day a month. So you have the opportunity to go through 2 different programs, either April through October or October through April. And we're always recruiting for 2 classes at a time. So the current window that's open, when you go ahead and fill in the application form, you'll see the question, would you prefer to go through the April-October cohort or the October-April? And my advice to you is to look at which of those 6 months is your least crazy. So I'm not going to say which is your downtime, which is your slow time, because no one has that anymore, but which is the least crazy. So if you have a big annual event that sits in one of those months, or just a time that's particularly crazy in your world, I would encourage you to choose the other 6 months, because there is a time commitment that we'll get into later too, outside of those 1 day a month program days. So you will get more out of it if you have more time to put in. The financial investment in yourself is $4,200. We acknowledge that is a high ticket price. So some of you may work for companies who have large leadership development budgets. If that's not the case, there is tuition assistance and payment plans available, and Amy will guide you through that process, and we'll also talk about it this evening as well. Applications are open right now on our website and close on January 28th. So you do have a few more weeks to fill out your application. That's the general overview. So let's talk about what is Ignite, what can you expect, and what would it be like to be in the program? Well, I will pare it down to this. There are 2 components that make up the Ignite Louisville experience. There is leadership development on this side, and there is leadership in action on this side, and they work beautifully together. They come as a pair, and I'm going to explain why it works so well. So I'm going to start though with leadership development of that section. What does that piece look like? And that is actually the reason you're here, most likely. That is that toolkit that you'll get to walk away with. Is all of the trainings, that once a month day that you spend with us. It's everything that you learn, all the content that is provided that you get to walk away with. On top of that, there are great networking opportunities in Ignite. Well, let's talk about the toolkit first. What is that? So the toolkit is, again, the trainings, the 1 day a month. And I want to share with you some of our content partners that we've had over the years. So each month is sponsored by a different local company that provides their internal training to you. So what they provide to their own leadership within the company, something you would have to work there to be able to access. I will say before I go into detail about any of these, that we are constantly updating and refreshing the program. So we do have a few content partners that are our core partners that continue with us long term. However, the majority, about every 2 years, we rotate and bring in a new partner. And the reason for that is we just want to keep the content fresh and relevant and current. So if you know someone who's been through Ignite, it's likely that they will have had some of the same experiences that you will have, but it's also likely they'll get something new that they didn't get to experience, and vice versa. So with that said, what do each of these companies provide? And what does that day look like? So I'm just going to choose a couple. So Brown-Forman, I'm sure you've heard of Brown-Forman. They're really great at branding. So the content they provide on the program day when we go onto the Brown-Forman campus is all about your personal brand, building your brand. What does that look like? Because we all have a brand, we all have a work brand and a leadership brand. And we have either taken the time to really curate that and be intentional about what our brand is, how we make people feel, what people think about when they think of us. Or if we've not done that, then our brand takes on a life of its own through our words and our actions, for good or for bad. So the day at Brown-Forman is all about learning, what is your brand? Do you know what it is? And if you don't, how do you take control of it? Why is it important that you have a great leadership brand? And how do you intentionally build it the way that you want it? Really great day at Brown-Forman campus. Leadership green room, so our very own leadership green room. Some of the content comes from. The current content is innovation. So you get to spend the day with our Vice President, Lisa Zangari, and she talks you through a lot of innovation tools and creativity that will really help you, not just in your work in the program, but more so back at the office and in your everyday life. And she actually was in New York City for 10 years. She worked for an innovation firm where she had some huge Fortune 500 clients and worked with them on innovation all day long. So she's a really fantastic person to provide the content to you, and her day is always one of the highlights. One more I'll touch on is the US Army. So we also spend a day going down to Fort Knox, and you'll get to go on the base. We'll spend a day with the Special Forces officers down there. And that day is all about leadership development and building a good team. So I'll talk about how you put on a team as part of this experience, but you work in your team with the officers to solve problems, basically, in a physical sense, out on a reaction course. And you get to identify who plays what role on your team and how do you work well with others and how do you harness the differences on your team, and how do you use those differences to really work the best you can, things that you can take away to your team back at the office and use those same skills, identifying what are the gaps and who can fill in for those. So another really great day. So that's just 3 examples. What do the days look like? I said it's 1 day a month and a full day. So it is a 8 to 5 day with us, either at the Leadership Louisville Center or on site at the partner company. And the day basically is the majority, the bulk of the day will be the training, but usually there's also a leadership story from either the CEO or someone in the C-suite that will share with you their own leadership journey. So how they got where they are, the steps they took, advice, maybe even pitfalls, things like, I wouldn't do this if I was to have my career over again. And really great insights that you can take away. And then you'll also have the opportunity to ask them any questions as well about their own leadership journey. Depending on where we go, there may also be opportunity to see the culture of the organization. So Brown-Forman, obviously bourbon, we usually have a bourbon tasting. You get a small tour through the campus on the way to the Bourbon Street Cafe. So you kind of get an opportunity too to see what would it be like, what's the culture like if I was to work in this company too. So there's those opportunities as well. So that's the content piece where you're building all these tools that you take with you. And that second piece is the networking. So there's actually, I think, about 3 different ways that networking is available to you through Ignite. And one is the class. So you'll have a class of usually around 45-ish individuals that you'll spend the 6 months with and get to know them. There's also your team. You'll be put on a team of maybe 7 to 8 individuals. So you'll spend the bulk of your time with your team. So you'll really get to know them very well. But also the program days. So all of the trainers that you meet, all those executives that you meet. And thirdly, through the leadership in action piece, which I'll get to just next, but you'll get to meet a nonprofit, their leadership, maybe their board of directors, other volunteers that work for them. So if you take advantage of all of the networking opportunities, you really stand to really expand your networking circle. Let's go to the next. So I said there were two pillars: leadership development, leadership in action. The leadership in action piece is this, the Ignite Louisville Challenge. So what does this look like? Basically, you are put on a team and your team chooses a nonprofit to work with for this 6 months. So the nonprofits you get to choose from a selection that are already pre-vetted by grads who've been through this program. So your team chooses a nonprofit and you work on a project with that nonprofit throughout the 6 months. This is outside of those program days. So you're meeting with your team. This is that extra time commitment I was talking about. You meet with your team outside those program days to work on this project. Projects range from events like a big fundraising gala, or setting up a young professionals board or an advisory board, or a marketing campaign, a rebranding campaign. Really, the sky's the limit. Most nonprofits need everything, so there's never a lack of things to do for them, but they'll have applied with an ask in mind, so you'll know before you pick which project, what the project is more or less going to look like. And it's a competition. So that's the key piece. You are competing against the other 5 teams in Ignite to win. And what you win is this lovely flame trophy, but you also win a cash prize for your nonprofit. But I think the most important thing you win is bragging rights, and the grads can probably back me up on that when you meet them a bit later on. But bragging rights that you were the winning Ignite team in your particular cohort. So I said before, they go beautifully together, these two pieces, the leadership development, leadership in action. Why? Why do we not just have the monthly trainings? Excuse me. Why don't we just have the monthly trainings? The reason behind this concept, and it's pretty unique, is that research shows when you learn a new thing, whatever it is, if you don't use it right away, and I think the data shows within 2 weeks, you stand to lose 80%, up to 80% of that new knowledge, that new skill, that new information, whatever it is. And we don't want that to happen. The trainings are so great every month, and we want that to stay with you. And so we give you this opportunity to put those new skills to work straight away by partnering you in your team with this nonprofit, so that the whole 6 months, everything new that you learn, you can hopefully take that and put it to work in this project. So that from when you go to Fort Knox, for example, and you learn about working with a team, you already know now how to put all the team members to work, how to best work as a team on this project. By the end of it, 6 months later, you'll be amazing at teamwork, and you can take that back to the office. So it really just becomes part of you. It's not that you leave with this binder of 6 trainings that you've had once a month. You really leave a much more elevated leader in your space. And that's what makes it special. And we call it the secret sauce. Let's go to the next. So we are at the point where we're going to bring in the grads, because Amy and I could sing Ignite's praises all day long because we love the program, but we also want you to hear real world experiences and have the opportunity to ask them questions too about their own experience going through the program. So I'm going to hand back to Amy to meet the grads, and also Ron, Deanna, and Charlize, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Joe. So these three humans are honestly three of my favorite people. So it's not just the reason that we asked them to be here, but in general, they are very fun. So hopefully you get a little bit of taste of that this evening. So Ron, do you want to go ahead and kick us off and just tell us who you are and where you work? And then we'll get started with some of the questions. And remember, as this goes on, this is a pretty casual session. I feel like Amy Poehler and Mean Girls, like we're the fun group. So feel free to use the chat if you have any questions that pop up as everybody introduces themselves. So Ron, you want to go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yes, chat, questions, whatever it might be. My name's Ron Burse. I am the Director of Volunteer Engagement for Dare to Care Food Bank. I am also a recent graduate of Ignite Louisville. I was in the fall 2021 class, as well as a participant of Focus Louisville in, I believe, February 2019. So I've been with Leadership Louisville programming, gosh, we're in 2022, about 3 years or so now. So.
Ooh. Awesome. Thank you. Charlize, you want to go next?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Charlize Montgomery. My title, I'm a Senior Learning Development Coordinator for Hogan Levels LLP. So we have a small business services office here in Louisville, but we're a global firm located and based out of DC. I also, with Ron, participated in the Ignite Fall class of 2021. And my team had the great privilege to actually win the challenge this past fall. So it was a great experience to be a part. I've been connected to Amy for a long time. Amy, we've been on a journey, I feel like, for maybe 4 years or not more. She was telling me, like, you need to do Ignite. I'm like, I don't know when I have time. And so last year was great for me. It was a perfect timing for me to join it and just go ahead and step out on faith and do it. And it's been a great experience.
Yeah, as seen, I mean, I don't want to rub it in, but like as seen by the trophy, like it was a good experience. Good. Okay, awesome. And Deanna, do you want to go next?
Yes. Well, my name is Deanna Duran. I currently work at GE Appliances in supply chain, and I graduated Ignite Louisville in April of 2021, if that is correct. Yes. And I really had an amazing time, and I'm also good friends with Amy. Yeah.
I promise we did not just fill the panel with all of my good friends, but I feel like I've become good friends with everybody who applies to the program because I'm literally here for you the entire time you apply. So hopefully we'll become good friends too. So, you all are very busy individuals. So what made you want to go through Ignite when you decided to throw your name in the hat?
I can start with that. I know for me, leadership programming and just leadership development is something that's always been important to me. It started in college with different programs, and I just feel like, like Joe mentioned, if you're not putting some of those skills and those things that you learn to use within a certain time period, you start to kind of lose those. So I always like to take some time every couple of years and just recenter and refocus on, kind of who I am, what I'm doing. And Ignite just came at an amazing time. I had some wonderful support with folks in my organization who also were in the program. And then with having some time and focus as well, I knew that that was a very good logical step for me next to be able to throw some time in and work to help improve myself. And then also, as we work with the different community nonprofits to help do some more work and do better for them too.
Thank you.
I guess for me, I really wanted to grow my leadership skills, and I've also always liked to give back to the community. And I knew it was going to be a project that we are going to actually do something for a nonprofit, and that was basically what made me decide to join Ignite. So, and it was an amazing time.
Good, thank you.
So similar sentiments of the others. Because of my career in learning development, I'm always really looking for something for me to go through every year. And for me, it was like, okay, what will it be this year for me to attend? Since the year before, I had a conference I wasn't able to go to because of COVID, and I wanted to do something within my city in Louisville to make a greater impact. So it made sense and then aligned with timing things to slow down a little bit at work, not a whole lot. And so it worked out for me to do it and for me to get the professional development as well throughout the course.
Awesome. Thank you, Shar. If you want to go ahead and stay off mute and kick us off with the next question. So what were some of your favorite content pieces throughout the experience?
Yeah, so I really loved the content piece on Innovation Day. That was great. So I had learned different levels of like, greenhousing and thinking through things, but we learned greenhousing flip, and just her energy on Innovation Day was just amazing. And I think it carried throughout the entire time. So if you become a part of the project, you also do an assessment called a predictive index. And I don't want to give too much, but that's kind of how they put you into your groups. And that really, it really makes sense as we went more and more throughout, the days and coming together, that you have to have the right people and the right team connected to you, because you got two people that are the same or much alike, it cause problems. You're trying to get things done. So Innovation Day, the predictive index for me. And lastly, Mr. Al Cornish, his Diversity Inclusion Day, which is amazing. As as a person of color, you always, we're always constantly, we hear these things and deal with these things, right? But just to hear it talked about in that setting, and it was just so receptive for us to have these good conversations along colleagues who are like-minded, like myself. And although we may not see eye to eye, but we can at least talk about it and be educated and move forward. And so it was really, really good.
Thank you. Deanna or Ron, do you guys want to go next?
Sure. I also really enjoyed the test, how we were put in teams based on just the way we were, the way we think, our personalities. And I think it was a really good fit for me and my team. The session that I enjoyed the most was the one that Brown Foreman did. And like Joe mentioned earlier in this presentation, it was good to learn more about branding and the importance of actually kind of having and making your own brand, and what actually people and friends and professionals, how do they see you? What words would they use to describe you as your brand? So I thought that was really cool, and I really enjoyed that session.
Great, thank you. Ron, what about you?
Yeah, can I say that because our 95% of our session met in person and not virtually, that was probably my favorite piece of content with it. We started in March or April of 2021, and we were able to meet in person. So that was just amazing. And I have to piggyback too and echo on the Innovation Day. I think that was just such a wonderful day to not only just challenge you to think differently, but just to also think about how you're thinking about anything. I think that Lisa did an amazing job with her energy with that presentation, and that's something that's definitely carried on with me. And I think about my team and the way that we had to approach our project with our nonprofit. The Innovation Day was one that really stuck out to us to help us ask the right questions and make sure that we get to the root of what was needed to really help our organization solve the issue that they had.
Yeah, thank you. Well, Ron, and actually that brings up a really good point. So I think we have all been experiencing the pandemic, obviously, for the past 2 years, and each of you all participated in a specific time where we have been in the midst of the pandemic. Can you all talk about a little bit about your decision to dive in and just I think that I know for me, I want to be really intentional and thoughtful with all of my decisions after being home for so long, that I just kind of want to cut out fluff and be very intentional with every decision that I make. And so what kind of made you decide to dive into Ignite at such a weird time in the world, if that question makes sense?
No, it does. I think for me, at that point, we kind of gone through a year of doing what we're doing now, sitting virtually. And I knew from some work before in college, the virtual work is not well for me. So I did want to wait to see if we could get to a certain level where we'd have a lot more in person, because this was an opportunity I did not want to miss or to pass up. I think Ignite's an amazing program, and it was at a perfect time for me in my career. So yeah, definitely wanted to be in person. And I think that even if you're not able to be in person or something happens in that regard, it's still going to be an amazing program, an amazing experience for you. One of my colleagues actually participated. I think half of her experience was in person and then it switched to virtual because of COVID. I'm not even sure. But she still got so much from it. You know, it's definitely program days. If it's going to be one day, you're going to be, you know, sitting. I'm sure maybe you're doing NTI with your children, maybe consider it being something like that. But the real work happens outside of the program day. So I think that there's still value in having it, whichever way that it can be.
Yeah, thank you. Can you all talk a little bit about the relationships that came out of Ignite? So, you know, Ron, I think both, actually all three of you had kind of touched on the dynamic between you and your groups. Can you all talk a little bit about the friendships that came out of those I don't know, learning experiences, tough times, successful times, all the times in between?
Does the winning team bragging right want to jump out and say?
Oh, Ron, don't do that.
Like a little bitterness was in there. But
Oh man. What I say the day we won, we're all winners. So I will have to say, definitely it allowed us to gain some friendships. If you can probably tell, I really don't meet a stranger with anybody. If I get to know you and we're a company, we work together, then you're cool with me. And so the same thing with it. I enjoyed also meeting other people outside of my team because I was with my team a lot. I was in my team program days, team outside of program days. So I enjoyed meeting people like Ron and others throughout the program to form relationships with. And so we would start doing things within the community. So there was the Russell neighborhood had a kickback, a neighborhood day, and just to see some of my colleagues and people a part of my class out there was really, really dope. So they were out there with the table with Alonzo and the West End School, but then also some just kind of came through to say, hey, we want to come through and support it. So we have that camaraderie even after we've graduated. I have to thank, she's not on the call, but Ashley Murray has done a wonderful job to try to keep us at least engaged when it comes to our birthdays and things of that nature and promotions or when babies arrive, you know, that we know about what's going on. So we've had at least a couple babies giving engagement since we went through this and a bunch of job changes. So put that out there. So be prepared if you come through. You may have a job change, but good changes. But it's definitely going to happen. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Deanna, Ron, do you all have anything to add to that?
Well, definitely I developed some friendships from my team. Actually, I'm planning a happy hour with them at the moment. So besides the hard work that we put into those goals and several get-togethers to make the presentation the best, my team did not win, but we really thought we were going to be the winners. But yes, it was a great dynamic. We learned from each other and it was a great experience.
Awesome.
I'll agree. I think that the team relationships are amazing, but you know, Joe mentioned also the relationships that can happen outside of just the team. Our nonprofit that we worked with, though we completed the project for them, there's still some pieces that excited us about what the organization was doing. So there are a couple of us that still participate with them on an advisory sense and, you know, still get to see our nonprofit partners in that way. And, you know, just hearing from some of the speakers that come in, I remember with Kirsten Holly at Brown Foreman, we had the Brown Foreman Day and right in the middle of lunch, she just came and walked up to our table and had a conversation with us. So there's just natural networking and team building and camaraderie that can happen in that way with the program as well. So it's not just your program team necessarily. And all of that just helps build into a better and amazing experience.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I only have one more question to go. So if you have a question that you want to ask the grads, please remember to use the chat or just come off mute and ask it yourself. So my last question for you all is, if you had to describe your Ignite Louisville experience in one word, what word would you choose?
I'd say it transforms. I think it transformed the way that I thought about myself. I think it transformed the way I think about issues and needs in the community. Transforms the way I ask questions, the way I listen. I think that it was a very transformational experience for me. So transforming.
I like that one. That's good.
I guess for me, it would be impact, because I definitely saw how the positive impact that all the teams did to their nonprofits. Like, even though there was only a winner, every single team in some way they won, because they definitely made a project that was going to impact those nonprofits positively. So it was good to see that and see their journey when they made the presentation. So that's the word that I picked.
Your cat agrees with you. Charlize, what about you?
Yeah, I would say pivot. We did a whole lot of pivoting with our team and throughout the entire time. Good pivots, some frustrating pivots. I think, we have to be realistic when working with a group of 6 or 7 different individuals, as well as your own family and the nonprofit. You know what I mean? You have to realize you can't be the Avengers to try to save the nonprofit. You're here to help them, and they have to be receptive to your help. So once you move past that, that may require you to pivot what you originally thought needed to help. That's what happened with our group. We did. They had on their paperwork what they wanted to done, but then we went in and did a needs assessment and saw they actually need to have these things. And so learning how to pivot through that and make sure that it's conveyed in a way that's not offensive to the nonprofit that needs some additional help.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. I'm sure that everybody's on mute, but they're clapping for you collectively. So thank you all so much for taking your Tuesday night to hang out with us. If you will want to hang on the call just for one moment, we'll talk about application questions, or we'll talk about the application process, and then we'll open it up to general Q&A and wrap up a little bit early if no one has any other questions. So we have tried to streamline the process a lot here at Leadership Louisville to make sure that it is pretty easy on you to get your application in and complete that. So their online application is available. I will send it out right after this phone call, so you do not have to go searching on our website. You can find it in your email right after this. It is a pretty simple form. I will let you know that there are a few short answer questions on that application, and unfortunately it can't be saved. So if you want to take a look at those short answers, draft something in a Word document and then input them when you are looking to complete the application, that's totally fine. But that application and the materials are due on the 28th. And so just know that that's kind of that deadline's lingering in the background. But like I said, pretty standard process. We do ask about references on that online form. And so rather than sending in letters of letter or referrals, we are just asking you to list your references. And so make sure you're pretty thoughtful around people who can speak to your experience, speak to your leadership strengths, maybe speak to what you would bring to the class. So we do ask for 2 references. A lot of times people will use their boss, maybe a close mentor within their organization, a nonprofit that they work pretty closely with, maybe a faith organization. So all of those are really great options. If you have any questions along the way, though, you will have my email and my cell phone. So definitely don't hesitate to call me, text me, beat me like Kim Possible, whatever you need. I'm here for you throughout the process. So we've got the supervisor commitment form. That is a really important piece of the process because we want to make sure that your boss is cool with you coming to hang out with us. So as Joe mentioned, they are full program days through once a month that we ask you to join us. So 8 to 5 at least once a month. And then we also have your small group projects. And sometimes those small groups opt to meet during the workday. When I went through Ignite, we met at 8 a.m. on Friday mornings. And so my boss had to know where I was when I was not at work, right? And thankfully they were extremely supportive, but we just want to make sure that your boss knows where you are and they're a champion for you to be out of the workplace and getting this professional development. If you still need to talk to your boss about why you want to go through Ignite, we've actually got a handout that has all the benefits outlined and the lingo that you can use to sell it to your boss. But again, we're here for any questions. So if you have any needs throughout the process, definitely let us know. And then finally, you will need to submit a headshot because we want to brag about you and put it into the internet that you are a badass and you're in Ignite Louisville. And so we definitely ask that the headshot be, it doesn't have to be a professional headshot. You don't have to go get it done. But we do ask that you send in a wonderful headshot of yourself that is just you. Sometimes we'll have families submitted or kids. And as much as we love your support network, we do just need a photo of just you. But that will need to be submitted by the 28th as well. I always block out the 28th on my calendar because I know that applications come in kind of late on that evening. And so know that you have until 11:59 on the 28th to get us those materials. But like I said, you'll have my cell phone. Preferably don't call me at like 11:59 at night. But if you have any questions before the 28th or even after, definitely let me know. So we are at the conclusion of our session. I don't want to brag, but we're letting you out 13 minutes early. So that's pretty great. But we do have the grads still on. Joe, the wonderful Joe Lloyd triplet is still here. And I'm here to talk about the application process. So what questions do you all have for us? Because I know that we probably did not answer everything. I do also want to mention, if you are working for an organization that is not fully supporting your tuition, you can absolutely apply for tuition assistance. That application, those questions are actually part of the application itself. So you'll just tell us how much you need financially. Is your work supporting you? How else are you gonna, pay for the experience? And that those questions are pretty straightforward and on the application itself, like I mentioned. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you're working for a nonprofit, if you are paying your own way, those are definitely what those funds are for. Unfortunately, we typically do not fund more than half of an experience. And so, but there are definitely special circumstances. So apply. Talk to me if you have any questions, but that's the down low on the tuition assistance.
I was going to ask,
Sure.
if there's any members of the Louisville Urban Young Professionals that there is, I believe there still is. I hope I didn't misspeak, a scholarship for young professionals. And if you're on the executive board, I believe it's a little bit more. And I'm not sure about YPAL. If that's
that's a great point, Char. So there, if you are an Emerging Leaders Program graduate, so if a graduate of ELP, the Young Professionals Association of Louisville's professional development program, they do get $350 off their Ignite tuition. And then, as Charlize mentioned, there is a grant that we also have for the Louisville Urban League Young Professionals Leadership Board. So if you are part of that, let us know. Great points. Joe, anything that you on your end?
I don't think so. I'll keep looking at the chat, but I don't see any questions come through. But myself and Amy are always available after this. So if you have any questions, obviously application-wise, reach out to Amy. But if you have any questions about the program itself and the content that we didn't cover today, then please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to field any of those questions that you have.
Awesome.
Hi, my name is Nate Littles. I had a quick question.
Yeah. Hey, Nate, what's up?
Nothing much. I guess a question that I had, what are your guys' expectations for people who apply and get admitted to the program? I understand the kind of the award, the camaraderie, and then kind of getting the Ignite Louisville trophy, but expectations for just kind of everyone that kind of gets accepted into the program.
Yeah. Joe, you might be able to help me with this. I would say, attendance is definitely a big one. So we ask that, you are paying for this experience, your employer is paying for this experience. Their grant, if you're getting tuition assistance, there are funders paying for the experience. And so we definitely want you to get all that you can out of the program. If you're not present and making those relationships and really taking in the learning, then you're not getting all that you can out of the experience. So that's the first thing that came to my mind. Joe, what sticks out to you?
Yeah, I completely agree with that, Amy. And I think it's your own personal benefit. The more you put in, the more you get out, that old chestnut. But also because you're on a team and you're working on these projects, I think your team is really depending on you as well. And I'm sure the grads would agree that when someone is not participating in the project work, it really puts a lot of extra burden and time on the rest of the team. So I think expectations from your team is also that everybody participates. And as I mentioned, that really helps you get more out of Ignite. So it's not just benefiting the nonprofit and helping your team achieve the goal, but it does benefit you as well in the long run. So I would say those are probably the two things, the expectation wise, really all around participation.
Yeah, I think that, something else that I tried to do when I was in Ignite, I know Ron did it as well, was really, you know, this is a really safe learning, you know, environment for you to test out different hats. So typically I'm the leader that will raise her hand and say like, I'll do it, or I'll take that on. And I tested out Ignite and kind of sat back and tried on a different hat of, you know, I wasn't the person that raised my hand for everything. I did, obviously, I was a very participatory group member, but I think, you know, we don't have necessarily expectations for you within your small groups, but I think, you know, if you're not normally the one who raises your hand and dives in initially, like maybe this is a great opportunity to do that. Maybe this is an awesome opportunity to say, you know, actually, I don't know a lot about young professional civic development, but I'm gonna you know, learn some more. So it is a really great opportunity to, I think, test the waters and try new things. And so I think it's a very safe learning environment, which I think is awesome. So
absolutely, extremely, you know, low to no risk in that sense, because you have a team, you have the rest of the Leadership Louisville Center also supporting you throughout that. So completely trying those different hats was very, I agree. I did it. You're right.
Awesome. Let's see.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, hopefully that answered your question, Nate. How many applicants are admitted to the program? Great question. So it is a pretty competitive application process, which is why we say get your application in, you know, as soon as you can. But I would definitely say that we typically around 40 to 45 in each class is how many individuals we have in each class. Let's see. Oh, and Joe already answered that. I just saw that. Sorry.
Sorry, I got you. I'm going to answer Bruce's question. Because I promised to answer that in the chat. The biggest difference between program being virtual versus in person. So I would say in the content, there's not a lot of difference. Obviously, in person is always better in terms of having that interaction, and we always want to be in person. And we have been in person for a really long time. Really, it's just this week that we actually dialed things back because of how things are trending. We found a lot of ways to be in person, in either outside when the weather allows, large venues, lots of protocols to keep everyone safe. So I would say the likelihood, and we can't obviously know what the future holds, but the likelihood is we are hoping to be back in person as soon as we can. I would say by April, we're planning for in person in April unless things change. But the content really doesn't change. You still get that leadership story. You still get all of the training, and the difference is you don't get that on-site access to the company. But I will say that Kirsten Hawley, whose name came up already at Brown Foreman, the class that didn't get to go, she promised them that she would invite them onto campus when they were allowing visitors again and treat them to a Brown Foreman chef provided lunch. So they will actually get to go on campus. So they didn't actually lose that, although it still is closed right now. So we do try and make sure that you get everything that an in-person experience would get. It just will look slightly different. And we've been doing this for a long time now. So we've got really good at all the tech over in our downtown offices to be able to provide hybrid and virtual experiences that are really high quality. And so we hope that you wouldn't feel like you are losing anything by being potentially virtual. And we will always do the safest thing.
Charlize, we get residual perks.
I know, I'm so excited about that because
I was gonna say, I saw that. Yes. Hey Joe, so we've got a great question from Shelby. Is the nonprofit teamwork evenly spaced throughout the 6 months, or is it more concentrated at the end?
Yeah, this is a great question for the grads. I'll just add, so that the pro just start right away, but it definitely builds towards the end, because 6 months is a short period of time. It'll fly by. And at the end, you also will be putting together a 15-minute presentation that highlights what you've done for the nonprofit. That is how the program is judged in terms of which team wins. So you have that also that extra work to build that presentation, as well as kind of finishing off any loose ends and finishing the project work. So definitely heavy on the end, but certainly from the beginning, you're meeting with the team on a regular basis. And would you agree, grads?
I agree. Yeah, the 6 months does fly by extremely fast. And, it's depending on what the projects and nonprofits ask for. Again, our group, we helped to ideate a website for an organization. There were some groups that did a little bit different work. So it depends on what the project is, and then kind of just pacing that time out throughout your team, because you're also still learning in the 6 months the skills and tools that you're going to add to that project. So it does get a little bit heavier towards the end, but yeah, it all just depends on what the nonprofit needs, and then what you speak to them about that's realistic and what you're capable of doing.
In my experience, definitely the last month prior to the presentation was the busiest, because we of course wanted to win and we wanted to make it perfect. So it took a lot of meetings, a lot of getting together and practicing to make sure the presentation was going to be perfect. So definitely I would say the last 2 months, if not the last month, was the busiest for me.
And Deanna, can you talk to us about what your specific project was about?
Yes, it was for Teach Kentucky. So we were sort of developing a program for their, I guess, the new teachers who are going to be moving from other states. So we had to sort of develop a program for them that was going to help the new teachers sort of stay in Kentucky and not just go back home. So it was just sort of putting a program together, which we would have weekly calls with the nonprofit and sort of like talk to him about our progress. And we would just, towards the end, we sort of just started to do our own thing. But at first we met a lot with a nonprofit, sort of shared our ideas and what we wanted to do. And we would just change it based on what they wanted us to do. So it was interesting, but it was a lot of work on our own. My team is split in two. So we were in charge of the part of the program, and the other half of my team were doing the research part of it. So it was good. Again, my dynamic with the team was amazing. I didn't have any issues, and we would all meet once a week, and we would all like talk about our progress, and that's how it was for the 6 months. And of course, the last month was just the busiest. I think we met probably twice a week, and then the last 2 weeks we met multiple times a week to just finish the last things of the presentation. So
Charlize, do you want to talk about the just the goal of your project, and then Joe, would you mind wrapping us up with how the winners are determined?
Yeah. So my project, the nonprofit, is Manly Edge, and they work with intellectually disabled adults. And so what we did on our team was develop some marketing strategies, the one to get their name known within the city of Louisville, which would then drive their donors up. And so we were able to record some videos, one that's already on their website, to share about the services they provide, as well as the increase in pay now that they pay their DSPs. We're able to also get them connected with a marketing firm to continue past what's going on, updating their website and do some more videos. They didn't have any social media presence. We got them a social media intern through a partnership with the University of Louisville, which was great. And so they now, I'm seeing it almost every other day. I see a social media post from them, which is really good. They didn't have that before. As well as their HR person had just came back, and she was trying to hit the ground running and to establish HR. So we gave her like a listserv of different networks to connect with within the city as it relates to trying to find jobs, job fairs, and all of that. So the biggest thing for my team is that there were 6 of us, and we broke down into pairs of 2s because we knew that we had a lot to kind of cover. And so we had a coach. So you'll get a person from our focus, Louisville, right? Will be your coach. And he asked us, what are your 3 drivers you all want to push? He said, I recommend that everybody breaks in groups of 2 so that way you're able to accomplish the work. And that worked well for us. If I'm focused on this thing, my teammates are focused on that. Now we get updates from each other, so what's going on, but then my hands will have to be into everything. I'm just focusing on marketing and that's it. And so that was how my team did well, and it came together at the end.
I have to echo that, just defining those roles and really guarding and honoring that time that you have to put in as a team outside of the once a month program days is something that's really important. That you ask about working with the nonprofits, it's that time that you're doing that. So our team, we did meet once a week as well for about an hour and a half or 2 hours on Wednesdays. So that time is super important, and define the roles like Charlize's team did.
All right, Joe, you want to bring us home?
Yeah, so I'll quickly answer Abdul's question, which is, can you share some of the group projects and how the winners are determined? So in the interest of time, I'm going to recommend you look on our website, because you will see full descriptions of the 6 projects of the most recent team. And I think you can go back and see other projects too. The easiest way is to just look for that orange triangle, which is the Ignite logo, click on that, and then look for the project results. And you'll see a full description of everything that they did. Will give you a better idea of some of the projects. And then how the winners are determined. So we do have some criteria that we'll be sharing with you at the beginning of the program. But basically, you'll do this 15-minute presentation. There's a panel of judges that we keep very secret. And you have to demonstrate to them that you used the things you learned throughout the program. And then also, what are the outcomes for the project? That's more or less. There's a couple other things in there. But the good news is we do provide you with a storytelling training as part of the content to help you build this presentation. So you will have support as well as part of the project going along to build this 15-minute presentation, so you won't be on your own.
Yes. Well, thank you all so much for joining us. So we actually kept you 3 minutes long. I'm so sorry, but hopefully you got your questions answered, and the grads did such an awesome job. So thank you for being here and being so supportive and answering all the great questions. If you have any that pop up, in the shower at 3 a.m., hopefully you're sleeping at 3 a.m., but if you're not, we are, like I said, we are here and available. We'll get back to you the next day, probably, if you email us at 3 a.m. But in general, we're here for you anytime. Remember, applications do close January 28th. And we so appreciate your time this evening. Thanks for joining us. And we hope to see your application come in soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you guys so much. Appreciate it.
Amy,
Thank
popping
you.
off. You have a good night.
Have a good one. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. All right, Joe, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. See ya.
Thanks,
Bye.
Amy.
Thank you all for being here. See ya.